welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. If you want to support my daily Eternal Magic offerings while getting amazing perks like the BoshNRoll Discord community, have me play your deck on the channel, or listen sideboard guides before tournaments, check out the Patreon or YouTube membership program. This channel is possible because of these amazing sponsors. Check them out, all their links are in the video description. As always, thanks for being here. Let's go play some Magic. Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm playing Legacy at the request of Patreon subscriber First Revenge, and this is Maverick. This list comes from user Clips for Life. I don't know who that is, but First Revenge wanted me to credit the deck to them. This is supposed to be a classic kind of metagame agnostic take on Maverick, where you just have the good cards for the archetype in the deck. We're not hyper-focused on Reanimator, which is really popular right now, or any other thing. I was instructed to play it without changes, and that I will do. Maverick is basically a Knight of the Reliquary Greensun Zenith deck. These are the core engines in the deck. Zenith is a toolbox for a bunch of cool creatures. Zenith can also get Knight, and then Knight is a toolbox for a bunch of cool lands. You have things like Mother of Runes to protect your creatures. You have minor disruptive elements like Thalia, Outland Liberator, Scavenging Ooze, Gaddock Teague. And then you have Wasteland with a bunch of ways to find it with the Knight of the Reliquary, and then you can send it over and over again with Ramunap Excavator. And all of those are in service of finding a hole to start punching damage through. Knight of the Reliquary, when it's done tutoring lands, hits like a truck. This thing is enormous. Tireless Tracker can get really big. Anything at all holding a Sword of Fire and Ice or Umezawa's Jitte can get pretty big. And playing this deck is really about finding good spots to apply pressure to what your opponent is doing in this moment. There will be games with Maverick where your opponent just tendrils your face off on turn one and there wasn't a thing you could do. And then there will be games with Maverick where you have to decide whether it's better to deploy the creature or wasteland them. And that could determine your entire game plan from there. I usually play blue decks with Brainstorm and Ponder in them. And I actually find these decks harder to play because you have to be right the first time because you can't move your cards around later and massively change what's going on. This also not being a Brainstorm deck means that if you happen to maybe draw Scrib Ranger in a matchup where protection from blue doesn't matter, that's just a card you have now. If you draw Source of Plowshares versus Creatureless combo, that's just a card you have now. It's not going anywhere. And that's part of the Maverick experience. If you're interested in this, check out Doogs on Twitch, has a whole website based on Maverick and Maverick Gaming. Let's just get into this. This is Maverick. I'm on the play in round one against Larry David Yo, who I've played against a number of times and is frequently on different decks, but I just played against this person yesterday and they were on Combo Reanimator. Luckily for me, my hand is a mulligan regardless of what they're on, so I'm just going to send it. My goodness. Okay, so this Horizon Canopy, Zenith gets Dryad Arbor. There is one of those in the deck. I believe I'm going to keep this, and I guess just hope that they're not on Reanimator today. I played against this player when I was recording False Cure combo the other day, and they just asked if that's going to be a video. I promise it is. I'm not just doing that on my free time. I'm going to keep and put Tireless Tracker, or maybe I don't need two Mother of Runes. I'm going to get rid of Mother of Runes. The Ramunap Excavator and Tireless Tracker could be engines. Stoneforge Mystic could represent pressure. If I get Reanimated, there's not much I could do. Like, I'm not going to mull to the one of Endurance in the main deck. There's one Endurance, one Scavenging Ooze. I'm not going to mull to this just in case they're Reanimator. But there's a good chance that this game will end on turn one. Opponent's on 6. I've got a Dryad Arbor. Blue to Delta. Dangerous start. Faithless Looting. Guess what? I have bad news for those of you who aren't my opponent right now. Swamp Lotus Petal discarded. I have good news for people who are me. A land would be great if I could double spell here. Seems I cannot, but I am just going to cast the best spell that I have access to. There is no Cauldron or Batterskull in this deck. Stoneforge Mystic is just a 2-of. It's just one of the creatures you have to upgrade your other creatures with. And this is actually a terrible time not to have a Cauldron in the deck. That looting's really interesting. Are they just setting up a full send this turn that didn't leave the graveyard exposed last turn? Or did they actually just miss? Because discarding 2 mana sources off-bait this looting on turn 1 is generally not what this deck's trying to do. But my opponent did keep 6 cards. Unmask targeting me. Okay. Well, these are my cards. If they were just setting up turn 2, unmask and Tomb Reanimate, that makes sense. If they want to just like reanimate my Tireless Tracker and start grinding here, I guess they could do that. They just called my deck a Vintage Cube draft. That's not untrue. Generally pretty stoked to have a Maverick style archetype in Vintage Cube. And Dark Ritual, Entomb. It's Grizzlebrand, so they're at 11. They go to 4. Probably would have scooped on the spot to Archon, but I'll see what comes out of this Grizzlebrand. There is a Caracas in the deck if they somehow whiff, and then I draw my 1-outer. Faithless Looting. 1 black still floating, so Animate Dead is online. Archon of Cruelty discarded. Yep, that's the one I would have scooped to. And they found another way to it. Okay. Super dead. Okay, Fairy Macabre's coming in. Endurance coming in. There's not a lot going on here, honestly, that would change. Mother of Runes, they're not really going to be dealing with my creatures on a 1-for-1 basis, though if they do something like Reanimate Atraxa and pass, this could push an attack through. I don't even think... Or we saw Unmasked, so I guess Gadokti literally has 1 hit. Is turning off their Unmasked better than turning off my Zeniths? Neither of these equipment seem very good, but if I cut the equipment, I'm also cutting Stoneforge. That's a 4-card package. Scrib Ranger seems irrelevant. Oh no, we're having a bad time here. These are all cards that I could see coming out of the deck. Plow, Thalia are fine. Liberator interacts with Animate Dead. I guess Deafening Silence gets added to the pile, as they did show me Dark Ritual, and then Entomb Reanimate makes it harder for me to interact if they can do it all at once. Umezawa's Jitte just seems really bad. That all seems really bad. Maybe I want the Mothers in. I'm just figuring out what pile of cards moving in and out makes the most sense. And I think the Mother is being able to get an attack through a Resolved Idiot is probably really good, or protect Thalia from death, or Scavenging Ooze. All right, in we go. 2 Thalias, but they don't show up till turn 2. No Endurance, no Fairy Macabre. And I have Ooze and double Thalia. I think I have to mulligan, though. This is mostly the same thing, except now I'm on 6. All right, I'll try it on 6. Keep this and bottom. Do I want to bottom Wasteland? Once Upon a Time represents Ooze. Plow is my way out if they stick a creature. All right, I'm going to bottom the Plow. Once Upon a Time can hit Endurance and Fairy Macabre. That's good deck building. That your hate is findable with something like this. Fairy Macabre. I will place it face up in my hand so they know to chill their shit. Unfortunately, it is face up in my hand, so they know to chill their shit. But also, it's cool that I have it at all. Thoughtseize, okay. See you later, Fairy Macabre. We had a moment together. Am I dead right now? Unmask, pitching Animate Dead. Okay, so they are worried about more going on in my hand. They were worried about the Thalia as well. Okay, I'm Zenithing here for sure. Just checking if there's anything better than Scavenging Ooze to get. Nope. Just checking to make sure there wasn't something that maybe I forgot about that could interact on 1. I'm going to grab the Scavenging Ooze and hope we don't die this turn. The Collector Roof's not in my deck. That might have been better than Ooze. Reanimate targeting Fairy Macabre. This is where we are, huh? This is the game that my opponent has to play. You're saying there's a chance. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Ramming up Excavator. And I'm attacking. This is a 3-3 because of Exalted. Can become 4-4 if I want to eat Thalia, which I don't. I want to leave up a green going into their turn. If their hand is Show and Tell Monster right now, they could flip it on me. Awesome. 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 We thought we had a chance, but we don't. That's magic. Okay. I'm going to discard or sacrifice Ramming Up Excavator. I think that's my worst creature in play. They attack for 2. Exile Thalia. Come on. Swords to Plowshares. You know, I did bottom a Swords to Plowshares off the mulligan, which would be good here, but I also did get Thoughtseized this game. But the Thoughtseize took Thalia. Yeah, maybe I just... But if I didn't bottom that, it would have had to be the land or the Once Upon a Time. And once upon a time, couldn't get Fairy Macabre if it was digging for land, and if I don't have land that I don't cast Zenith onto. Yeah, I just kind of wish that was a 7, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. Alright, they're attacking for 9, 10, 11. I can attack for 5 right now. That's not enough to get through the Archon. Okay, would I rather have Thalia in play or Noble Hierarch? I think Noble Hierarch. Like, they just barely have cards in their hand. And my path out of this probably involves ripping some sequence of spells. And by some sequence of spells, I mean literally Swords of Plowshares off the top. Punished. Alright. We mentioned dedicated combo might be tough for Maverick, and confirm that to be true. Lush Portico. Let me just see if there's something I can mill over that wins me the game somehow. Certainly not that. Alright, GG. The show and tell pivot, too good. On to the next round. This video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, the easiest way to build Magic decks online. Moxfield supports over 30 formats, including Legacy and everything else you'll see on this channel. There's multiple customizations so you can interact with your deck how you want. Views such as text, grid, or stacks, and groupings like type, subtype, color, color identity, even artist. The site offers light mode, dark mode, and so much more. However you want to see your deck, Moxfield can provide it for you. Follow my Moxfield to keep up with the channel and what I'm playing in paper. I'll see you there. I'm on the play in round number 2 with a nice little Maverick hand. I'm going to keep this. I get to lead on Mother of Runes and then Wasteland them or Zenith and work my way up to Knight of the Reliquary. Mother, get in there. Opponent's on a Malta 6. Misty Rainforest. Please don't get Underground Sea. Basic Island. That's probably good news. It's definitely breakfast. That might be bad news. Okay. I think Alright, so the options are add to the board and hold a plow, or don't add to the board and hold a plow, because this deck does play Daze. But I do have plow for the Illusionist. I could just plop Wasteland into play in case their second mana source is Urza Saga, and then I could time walk them. Brainstorm, punished for being a chicken. Flooded Strand can access basic planes. Stoneforge Mystic. Hey, nothing has changed that I still don't want to combo, or I don't want to lose my anti-combo piece to Daze. Ooh, Meticulous Archive, interesting. I'm just going to zap that. They bend a Misty Rainforest into this face-up Wasteland, which means they're not worried about mana. But I do play other Wastelands and other routes to Wasteland. I'm going to fetch my Lush Portico in the end step. I can do that trick too. Behold. Once Upon a Time is a stinker at this point. Cool. Now I can add Stoneforge Mystic and really put the screws to him. Again, kind of wish there was a Cauldron in the deck, but I understand why there's not. Zenith for Ooze plays there as well, and the Mother protects it. Might have forced that, though. I don't know. Maybe that's just right. Brainstorm. They milled away their Thassa's Oracle off Hedge Maze. And this is going to be a Nadu build. We now see a green source in play. Should generally assume that Breakfast is a Nadu build this day and age. Got a Flooded Strand. Savannah. There's an Illusionist, so they're ready to send it. If they have force backup, they win. They plow this thing. And they did have force backup, which means that my Zenith for Ooze wasn't going to work either. I mean, they have seen cards since that point. Maybe they didn't have all of it. They pitched a Narcomoeba to do that. Let's just get a look at this deck. There's Cabal Therapy, which they can't afford to use because they pitched a Narcomoeba already. There's Dread Return. And there's the other Narcomoeba, so they can Dread Return. They can't Cabal Therapy. Maybe they'll forget. All right, Nadu, Cavern of Souls, confirmed. Bunch more Nadus. They were all in the bottom 12 cards of the deck. And now I'm dead. Okie dokie. Choke is good. Endurance is good. Fairy Macabre. Collector Oof. Dismember. These are all cards I'm reasonably happy to play with. Gaddock Teague turns off Force of Will and Dread Return. I guess I have to leave that card in. Where am I going to find 9 slots here? Tracker and Excavator. Maybe the Stoneforge package comes out. Though I've also heard from Thalia Gamers. I did a collaboration with Thraben Yu on this channel once where he pointed out that if you're doing something like bringing in a bunch of dismembers in a matchup that could be about removal, Thalia can stop you from double spelling on a turn where it's really important. And maybe that's true here. I'll consider it. How many Once Upon a Times can you play without? It seems cuttable, but also seems like it's part of the mana base and the threat base. If I cut the Stoneforge package entirely, then I get to keep Raminep Excavator and my Once Upon a Times. I could see sort of Fire and Ice being good. It's just a way to bash through Teferis and Narcomoebas and stuff. I am keeping Teague. I do have to beat just a fair Nadu, even if I shut down their whole sideboard plan, or their whole like combo plan. My deck still has to win somehow. What if I lead in the Sword of Fire and Ice and the Stoneforge Mystics over the Once Upon a Times? I have no idea if that's right. I am on the fly here. Another one lander after I boarded out my Once Upon a Times. I have not lost the irony. Okay, this one I'll keep. I think I bottom Knight here. Is there a Bajuka Bog in the toolbox? There's not. Okay. I'm going to bottom Knight because Raminep with a fetch land hits my land drops for the rest of the game. And I'm actually going to lead on Mother because Cephalid Breakfast tends to board into a large number of removal spells. And my hand can't afford to lose its bird. And I can beat Force of Will if they send it on turn 2. So I'm not like hyper worried about choking them right away. Basic plane, Shuko. All right, that's in. Fetch land would be great. I'll take Savannah. Not a fetch land, but it is a land. I kind of hope they do just jam Illusionist here with Force backup. They're on a mull to 5, so their options might be limited. I'm going to go for Knight. The choke just doesn't matter that much right now. And Knight pops off the Raminep because now I can put lands in my graveyard. This is the engine coming together. Force of Will, pitching Ponder. Okay, so they had a Force. I am obliterated by Nadu on this board. They kept their Surveil, firing land number 3 into play. I don't care about Teferi. I care a lot about Nadu. Disappointing. Well, turns out the choke would have been the better play, but that would have gotten forced also. And Nadu's lands come into play untapped for reasons that are clear only to Michael Majors. Nomad, Jesus. All right, well, they're off. One card in hand is Plow, but now they can flip 4 cards per turn. So their hand is Plow, Brainstorm. And Zenith for Oof doesn't matter anymore because they have the Nomad. Do I have anything that solves this? Not really. I guess I can just shove Choke and hope that their lands are tapped enough that I can do anything. I don't know. I don't even know what my plan is here. There's Illusionist. They have 4 looks at Force of Will here. They've used 1 already. Moment of Truth. Okay. 7 cards in hand. We know what they all are. None of them are Force. However, none of that matters because I'm going to die to this 4/4 flyer. Spamming Nomads again. Ponder, Therapy. Plow. Oh, they just didn't hit a land, so they are going to have to go to discard and discard. All right, they can hit 2 more here. There's a Tundra. There's Oracle. Okay, so they're going to have to discard 5 cards here. If I can draw Swords to Plowshares or Caracas, I'm playing the game again. And I boarded out the Scrib Ranger. Never forget, that would actually be a potentially game-stabilizing Zenith target right now. They have 1 card in their hand that I don't know about right now. That's Therapy, Shuko, Plow, Narcomoeba, and Brainstorm gone. Okay. That's a big fella. They can flip 6 in response, of course. And if they flip 2 white sources, or they don't even need 2 white sources because they have basic planes, the 2 plows in their hand can get the Knight gone if they want it gone. 3 plows in their hand. They can also at some point just cast Thassa's Oracle. They did not discard it to hand size, which means that they are still on that life where they might just cast it when their deck's empty, which won't take very long. Okay, passing the turn. Got a Windswept Teeth. And we're just flipping 6 more cards. And there's a Nomad in their hand, so they could flip another 2 cards easily. I know the Maverick community are a dedicated bunch, and I've probably made some sequencing and sideboarding errors already, but boy does it feel bad watching a combo deck go off twice in a row as I put some cool permanents into play and then lose. They're cracking some fetch lands now. There's a Savannah in this deck. That's bad news for the massive number of Swords to Plowshares and white removal spells in their hand. It also just doesn't matter because they're going to win with this Thassa's Oracle. Yeah, they can go empty in response. They can't make them draw a card. I can't come up with endurance here. All right. Cool game. On to the next round. The BoshNRoll channel is proudly partnered with the Resleevables.
Good. All right, here we go, gang.
In this YouTube series, hosts Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan take us on a set-by-set journey through the good, the bad, and the ugly of Magic's history. Each episode is a focused deep dive into the facts about a set's design and release, the Magic lore expressed through the cards in that set, Tournament Edition gameplay videos featuring products and Pro Tour decks of the era, an award show that shouts out the best and weirdest cards of the set, and a final grade for the set's overall success. Whether you want a history lesson or a nostalgia hit, The Resleevables has it at youtube.com/theresleevables. On the draw for round number 3, and I mean, this is one of those spots where if I knew the matchup, I would know maybe this is unplayable. But if my opponent is gonna like play a land and pass, this hand might be great. Opponent's on 6. Let's find out what they're doing. Basic Island. All right, so I have a 4-card hand. Perfect. This is actually an interesting decision. I guess I'll play Windswept Heath and just use Lush Portico. Maybe it's not as interesting as I thought. I was thinking how long I'm going to hold this fetch land and maybe cash out with Tireless Tracker versus how do I play around Wasteland? What do I play around here? Do I just get my lair into play? But having the Portico in the deck, I guess, makes this reasonable. Okay, Urza Saga. Now I have a target for Wasteland, but Tamiyo is bearing down. I don't need a forest. Once upon a time, I haven't cast a spell yet. That's lucky. Wasteland the Urza Saga. I'm not going to try... Oh my gosh! Stifle. I was going to say I'm not going to try to tangle with a Urza Saga, and I'm just going to zap that off. Okay, Knight of the Reliquary, Thalia, Script Ranger. It's probably Thalia. Oh, what is that Stifle doing in the deck? That's messed up. We must be a Dreadnought deck. What other deck would have Urza Saga, Tamiyo, and Stifle in it? That's such a weird combination. I entertained for like 1 second, waiting to Wasteland until their turn, and I don't know why I didn't do it. I just didn't think it would matter. But here we are, with me looking silly. I'm going to play Wasteland, and I drew a 1-drop. That was one of the better draws I could have. And now I'm going to pass into their turn. If they make a construct in the end step, I will Wasteland the Saga. But Tamiyo growing a construct every turn is certainly an object of concern. Fetching basic lands like I'm going to waste anything other than the Saga. They get a 3/3 that will be a 4/4 in combat. Very interested in their deck, though. Yeah, I can't do anything here. Take 4. Bank your 3rd clue. Ponder, that's the 2nd draw of the turn. Urza Saga again. And that Stifle just got them 1 turn to function. Yeah, if I had just wasted on their turn, then the Stifle means they wouldn't be able to make a construct that turn, then I waste, then they have no construct. And then we're suddenly living in a world where miraculously knowing that they're a Stifle deck matters a lot. I'm taking out Saga again. Cracking a clue is fine. The construct got smaller. Scoreboard. I need a Swords to Plowshares or Outland Liberator. And I haven't ruled out the possibility of a Dreadnought out of this deck yet. Mother of Runes. Okay, I can double spell this turn or play Tracker. Should probably double spell. Though I can't really beat a colorless creature regardless. Stoneforge Mystic, get in there. Jitte versus Sword of Fire and Ice. Jitte on Thalia is an interesting combat object because first strike plus Jitte, you get the counters before the creature gets to engage, so you can like buff your creature or shrink theirs before it matters. Sword of Fire and Ice also just collapse. Alright, I'll take the sword and play the mom. Probably have to let Construct hit me this turn and then try to do something next turn. Is it dealing exactly 5 and then 6 over the next 2 turns, which is my life total. If they crack a clue, though, then the pressure's off. Meticulous Archive. And they bind Flooded Strand. Oh dear. The randomly Miracle Drive of St. Catherine. They didn't set that up. I mean, they got rid of Flooded Strand, but they didn't see that and decide to keep it. Now what? In Triumph, I can kind of engage with Mother of Runes, but not really. Because now the sword can't even attack through. This Mother doesn't give protection from colorless, just not a thing that it does. Giver of Runes would be a stabilizing force on this board. The redundant copy of a legend, you love to see it. Can I do literally anything here? And I think the answer is no. I can ram Thalia into Triumph. I could also pump the brakes a little. I could block, put in sword, next turn use sword. Because I'm just dead, right? Yeah, I think if I just fire sword into play, I lose. I might lose anyway, but I definitely do if I do play the sword. Okay, I guess I'm passing. I know Thalia can attack into Triumph, but if they just don't block, a sword trigger doesn't really change this game at all. And then, because I have to commit this creature to getting the sword into play, this creature to equipping the sword, and then this creature to the attack, and I only have Mother left to block with. Okay, block. Stoneforge on the Construct, Thalia on the Triumph, then put in sword. Doorkeeper Thrall. Artifacts and creatures don't cause ability. That doesn't matter. And that would matter if I was putting in Cauldron or Batterskull, but I'm not. I would have done that before blocks. That basically confirms this is a Dreadnought deck, though, which is weird because Triumph of St. Catherine is here too. I'm going to give Thalia Pro White, which does put the shields down on Mother. Dreadnought. Okay, yep, that's really good. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 7/7, but it's still smaller than 2 of their creatures. Okay. Yikes. That one I can chalk up to my timing on the Wasteland. I'm going to be just ruthlessly honest with myself, which I try to do all the time, but especially when I'm playing these decks where you have to play perfectly. If I had just wasted on their upkeep or waited for them to crack a clue token in my end step and they can't stifle my Wasteland, then they don't have this construct. And then miracling this Triumph is more of a stabilization thing than a slamming the door shut thing. And maybe Dreadnought shows up, maybe it doesn't, but this construct did not need to be in play. Okay. Good lessons. Choke, Force of Vigor, Mazavith, Dismember. Dismember kills the Thrall. Okay, finally Gaddock is not what I want in a matchup. I don't think I want Endurance here. Plows, Moms, all good. Once Upon a Time, I can shave that. Scavenging Ooze, they're not a graveyard deck. Scrib Ranger blocks Tameo, but doesn't do anything else. Null Drifter is not actually blue. Tracker, Excavator, the Stoneforge stuff I like. Maybe I just don't get to play Dismember. I cannot beat a Null Drifter though, but we also did see Triumph of St. Cath. Is Jitte actually good here? I'm trying to make this little Stoneforge package work, and it's struggling. All right, I'm gonna shave a Thalia because I'm boarding in a bunch of spells. I guess I'll keep this. It's a turn 2 choke. Opponent mull to 6. I'm gonna Zenith for Dryad Arbor. It is liberating to just F6 all the time with this deck, though. Not even bluffing anything. I'm a Selesnya deck. Cast your spells, they're gonna resolve. There's a Saga. Not an island. Pithing Needle. Naming Wasteland, probably. And then I get to own the libs. Yep, they played Wasteland. Or named Wasteland. I'm going to play Liberator before I make my land drop, because they can't daze here. And Gaia's Cradle doesn't do anything right now. I'm going to play Savannah and pass. And if it actually flips to nighttime, this is insane. And Outland Liberator is just pretty good against most of the things their deck tries to do. They passed. It's nighttime. When I go to combat, Urza Saga dies. Move to combat. Are we getting there, or are they going to dress down? They are going to dress down. Okay. That means the attack trigger doesn't happen. It also means Stoneforge Mystic doesn't tutor. Alright, well, I mean, that's in. It also means that this dress down won't be in play to enable Dreadnoughts next turn. I can pick off the Saga or the Needle anytime I need to, or a Dreadnought after the fact. This is mostly fine. And Day and Night is independent of the creature. Disappointing. Alright. Plow your Dreadnought. So, like, the creature losing its ability doesn't change anything in terms of whether it's day or nighttime. I'm going to draw a card with a Rising Canopy. I don't need this much mana. But you better believe the deck's going to give it to me anyway. Stoneforge Mystic. Get the sword. I am not going to cast the sword because then it's subject to counter spells. That also taps me out of Dismember, where if they try to get back in with a Thrall, I have interaction. How are we going to get our first trigger with Sword of Fire and Ice? Might be the first time anyone's triggered it in 15 years. Is there any record of anyone hitting with the Sword of Fire and Ice since 2010? Okay. Basic Plains. Activate Stoneforge Mystic. Put in sword. Equip sword. Hope they don't have plow. Attack for 3. They would have plowed by now if they were going to, because now I gain more life. Oh my goodness, we did it. 2 to you, draw a card. Busted. And I'm going to pass the turn. I'm not going to plow Tameo right now, because I don't mind if they make 1 clue. I actually don't even mind if it becomes a Planeswalker. But I mind a lot if they thread the needle and get a Thrall plus Dreadnought into play right now. Tameo's in. I'm winning 22 to 23. Retrofitter Foundry. Okay. I was not prepared for that. And it does make Sword of Fire and Ice pretty bad. Wasteland still doesn't work. I didn't bring in my Collector Roof. So I don't think I did. Nope. Certainly did not. Okay. Well, I will attack with my Sword of Fire and Ice. And I'll let them tap out to block. I don't think I want to use a removal spell on this. That's fine. This turn, I'm going to play Wasteland and use it to cast Knight of the Reliquary. And I am going to plow Tameo now. They gain 0 life. Let's at least cut off some of these engines. I'm still representing Dismember. Maybe I'm supposed to Dismember Tameo and save plow, because this doesn't answer Dreadnought. They've used 2 dress downs already, and if they thrill it out, I would prefer to Dismember. My goodness. Once upon a time, as a fair magic card, casting it. Mother of Runes, Birds of Paradise. Birds of Paradise is actually good here. It can fly over these Thopters. What lands are in my tech suite? Lair of the Hydra just is XX. It doesn't have trample. Caracas doesn't matter here. I think I used Horizon Canopy already this game. I did. Okay, I think I'm just going to attack for the most damage that I can. Put them under pressure. I'm going to fetch for Lush Portico before damage, get the extra point through with Night. Extra 2 points through with Night, Mill of Forest. Birds of Paradise. Get in. And I'm going to pass. The Sword of Fire and Ice doesn't protect Bird from Plow, so equipping it now doesn't matter. I am ahead right now, but that could change. Retrofitter Foundry is very cool. I was building out the Urza Saga package in a deck that is frequently just massively tempo coded. Drawing lands. Good news, everybody. We drew more lands. I'm going to equip the sword to the flyer. We're in. Do I want to leave Night back as Mazavith? Because then I can do Night tricks in the future. Is there a land that answers Pithing Needle? Don't play a Blast Zone or anything like that. Nope. Alright, Knight's joining the fray. Just trying to do as much damage as I can while the getting appears to be good. Cracking their clue. Plowing Knight rather than Bird. Okay. A lot of respect for that one. That means we're connecting, and I'm drawing a card. Tireless Tracker. Heck yeah. Holding back my land this long turned out to be on purpose. Tracker. Land drop. Investigate. I think I'm going to draw a card using Gaia's Cradle. This leaves the most types of mana open for whatever this card is I draw. Hierarch. Yeah, let's get in there. Okay. Passing the turn. Urza Saga's in play. The creature arrives as 3/3. If they have a land drop, it could be 4/4. My flyer's still doing the Lord's work out here. Okay, this Ponder means that Retrofitter and Saga can't be activated this turn unless they play something like Ancient Tomb, which would be super weird. They did not shuffle Ponder. That feels like a removal spell to me. Either removal spell or going for Dreadnought are the two things that I feel like they might hold back for. Knight of the Reliquary. That is a good card. I think I'm just attacking with Bird, though, because I don't want to trade Tracker for anything. I have the Exalted bonus, so sending Tracker, Stoneforge, and Dried Arbor doesn't matter. Okay, they have the Plow. My read was correct. Knight of the Reliquary's in. And I'm going to equip sort of Fire and Ice to the Knight. That is just the biggest creature to fend off constructs with. And I have lots of mana because of Gaia's Cradle. Maybe I'm just supposed to kill the Thrall immediately in my end step because Saga just has to tick up here. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Triumph off the top. Okay, so I guess I dismember the Thrall. Triumph's really good. We'll see if there's any non-Dreadnought cards to tutor left in their Saga package. Or if they just have a second Thrall. Yeah, that's cool too. Sweet. We're all in versus an opponent who Miracle Triumph on the same turn where they threaded the needle versus this Dismember I've held up since turn 1. Knight can get Maze of Ith at the very least. Mother of Runes, you stink. Hey, how do I want to do this? I can get a fetch land and just make a bunch of clues with Tireless Tracker and try to dig my way out of this. Okay, float green. Sacrifice a forest. Maze of Ith is the probably smartest one to get, but I also have some life total to work with right now if I want to ramp a bunch of clues, and I think I do. Artifacts and creatures, not lands. Windswept Heath. You investigate. Fetch. You investigate. I get 2 redraws here, and I still have my actual land drop to make. Zenith. Oh, what does that do? This was the game where I already used my Outland Liberator. And Outland Liberator is in exile, so getting something like Endurance doesn't matter. Also, Endurance isn't in the deck anymore. Ramineb Excavator. Could play another fetch land this turn. I'm going to draw a card before I make any decisions. Force of Vigor, that's a really good one. Okay, the first good news I've had in a while. Dried Arbor, 2, 3, 4. Zenith for 3. I'm going to start with that. I hope Remnant Excavator is actually in my deck. It is good news. Is that better than Knight? I think with Horizon Canopy and Tireless Tracker, this is better than Knight. Horizon Canopy, trigger. I have zillions of mana. 6 mana, 7, 8 mana available. Kill Dreadnought and Retrofitter Foundry. I don't think I need to wasteland this opponent at this point. We take out these things. Move Sword onto Tireless Tracker, who's enormous and can be bigger. And I'm going to attack for 9. That was a pretty fun turn. Full combo engine going. If you don't block, you lose, opponent. Okay, they didn't block. Deal 2 to you. We did it. Okay, fun game. A Script Ranger is literally a flying body, which mattered a long time there. We've seen something worth oofing at this point, but oof while turning off their Retrofitter Foundry. Oh, opponent said in the chat, sorry, I'm late, I have to go for something. Well, we're on the board. I was about to say, oof, turning off their Retrofitter would have turned off some of their grind potential, but also would have turned off my grind potential, moving the sword around. So I don't even know if I want oof, even knowing that they have that in the deck. Maybe the extra Dismember over one of the Thalias makes sense. They seem like a deck with a bunch of activated abilities and cheap spells that aren't necessarily relying on Thalia not being in play to do. Okay, well, we win. On to the next round.
We're a few rounds into the video. Thanks for sticking with me.
Friendly reminder that if you're still here and having fun, smash that subscribe button. And if you want to play what I'm playing, you can use my affiliate link for TCG Player to support the channel while you shop for cards, and you can try any deck anytime with a cardhoarder.com loan account for Magic Online. All these links are in the video description below. Now back to the league. I'm on the draw for round 4. I think I have to mulligan this hand. The Maverick experts can let me know if just having zillions of mana under you and hoping to draw anything good to do with it before you're dead is a good plan, but I feel like it's not. I'm going to mulligan. I will keep this one and bottom one of the plows. Because Once Upon a Time represents my second land potentially, or my third land, because the first Zenith is my second land. Endurance plays if they are a Send It combo deck. Polluted Delta. Tropical Island. Delighted Halfling. Okay, we're playing as Nadu again. Draw for turn. We've got Sword of Fire and Ice right on time. Once Upon a Time, let's go. We got Basic Plains or Birds of Paradise. I want Basic Plains. And I think I'm going to fire Swords of Plowshares at this Delighted Halfling rather than Zenith out Dried Arbor, because if they play Nadu or Teferi this turn, I'm just dead. Force Pitching Ponder, okay. Might just be dead anyway. Life from the Loam targeting Polluted Delta. Okay, so they were pretty in on that. I can Endurance this graveyard if I feel like that is correct to do. Ponder, let's see if they dredge here. That would be pretty interesting. Is this Bug Nadu or is this like a Lauren and they're doing something totally different? I'm not totally sure what's going on right now, which has been the story of this league. They shuffled their library and did not dredge the loam off the ponder. Another Once Upon a Time. Well, that's something I'm happier to pitch to Endurance. I'm going to get Savannah and Zenith for Bird here. I think the Flying Body is better than not having that. And I'm actually going to wait on the Endurance, because if I can hardcast it, it's so much better. And they have 3 mana now and successfully cantripped last turn. Like, if they dredge loam and go to cast it, I can Endurance away the targets. Or I can just ignore that part of the deck. I don't really know what's happening, and I'm not sure that this loam is worth 2 cards right now. And they didn't dredge the loam. Now I'm glad I didn't pitch my card. Fatal Push. Well, sad. Halfling's getting in for combat. Fascinating. Okay, drawing a land is big. Now I'm just going to leave up Endurance and pass. I'm going to act like, oh no, I can't cast a spell. Because if they fire with the Halfling and Endurance can both roast their graveyard and eat the Halfling, that's sick. They did dredge loam this time. Found Underground Mortuary and Polluted Delta. Yeah, I'm just going to cast Endurance. They tapped the Halfling to cast the loam, so they weren't going to attack anyway. Daze, sure. Yeah, that's a card that is legal in the format. This deck's very weird. They have 3 lands in their hand and 1 unknown right now. Mother of Runes. So I could go Mom and Zenith for a 1-drop, or I could Zenith for a 2-drop. I think I want to Zenith for a 1 and play Mom. It's getting myself closer and closer to this sword. I have big dreams. Brainstorm. The card's very good after you've just put a bunch of relevant lands into your hand. Uro Wasteland hit the graveyard here. The One Ring is in this deck. What is going on over there? How would you have room for Daze, Uro, and the One Ring in the same list? This is quite a brew. Honestly, looking at the graveyard right now, this almost looks like a singleton challenge that someone would give me to play. There's just one of all these different cards. There are 2 Brainstorms. Okay, they blew it. You're disqualified from the challenge. But you do get to play an uncounterable Uro, which is pretty good. Uro's in, exiled the One Ring and a bunch of spells. Zenith. I can go up to 3 for Zenith. Do any of those cards answer Uro? Getting Knight of the Reliquary gets Caracas next turn. Well, I guess so. This is what we do. X equals 3. Another Daze. Sweet. Is it possible to play Magic with this deck? I have not experienced it yet. I guess I have to keep playing because Swords of Plowshares or Caracas draws are good. They're going to start wastelanding me, or at least they can if they want. Uro triggers. They're up to 6 cards in hand. One of them's Light from the Loam. I'm not going to block and tap Mother of Runes. I feel like my creatures being safe from removal is more important than that. Psychic Frog. All right, cool. Can't beat that one either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could play and equip Sword of Fire and Ice, which actually does kind of play here. Because if I put it on Mom, then Mom can block these blue creatures and while protecting herself from black removal. Provides some stability. The Frog is still a problem, but Uro is in check on the damage race anyway. They're still drawing 2 cards in combat every turn. They could also just end step Fatal Push to tap my Mother of Runes and get through with everything. And they do have lethal if they can get through Mother of Runes. I guess they'd have to spend the Fatal Push, so they could put me to 1 through Mother of Runes if they have a removal spell. Or no, the Uro gets to attack, so they do have exactly lethal if they have something that makes me tap Mother before combat. I've been on the other side of matchups like this enough to know that Uro's got to feel amazing for them. Anyone who's trying to play Magic fairly, and Maverick is the ultimate fair legacy deck, Uro just, it feels fair, but boy, does it also not feel fair. Oh my goodness. All right, you win. Beseiju. That wasn't revealed at any point in the loaming. That was just appeared in their hand. Okay, Choke and Endurance coming in. This is also a Frog deck. I feel like Maze of Ith worth the effort. Dismember can challenge Frog and Halfling kind of stuff. I don't think I want Fairy Macabre. That card just is really bad if it's not sniping exactly Uro or Loam. This doesn't seem like an important Thalia matchup. Gaddock Teague turns off Force of Will probably in this matchup. I don't think that's the one. Is there anything worse in my main deck than Dismember? Outland Liberator. Is that going to be important? Scrib Ranger. Pro Blue. Let's go. Very good against Psychic Frog. Okay, I think this is what I'm going to do. Just looking at those Dismembers, though. Outland Liberator. Scavenging Ooze definitely good. One of the Once Upon a Times. I can get 2 of these in here like this. Alright, I'll try that. They did show me creatures that are smaller than 5 toughness. Ooh, okay. A quick, cheeky little choke. A choky little cheek. I'm going to start with Lair. Protect my 1 of White Source. Underground Sea. Fatal Push. You got me. I'm just going to Wasteland them. Try to slow this game down a little bit. I can tap Lair of the Hydra to activate itself, and it dies immediately. No, it can't be 0. Never mind. I can't even make the joke that I could go my own mana if I need to. Blighted Halfling. We've seen Daze. I'm not going to fire Dismember yet. But I am going to fire Dismember, probably. Unless I draw a 2-drop worth casting. Nope. Okay. Which member? That one. That was worth a Force pitching Psychic Frog. This is a person who needs that mana right now. If that Halfling is about to cast Life from Malome and get back all the value lost by Wastelanding, that makes sense. Tameo and Brainstorm to immediately flip Tameo. All right. Straight to work with that. Clock is ticking. There's not a way in this deck to answer a Planeswalker outside of combat. No Prismatic Ending or anything of the sort. We do have Lair of the Hydra, but that isn't that impressive. I would love if they played like a tapped Hedge Maze. Oh my god, we called it! Okay. They played a tapped Hedge Maze. Spew Uro into the graveyard. We have seen Daze, which would be a huge blowout here, but I'm going to get my Lush Portico and try to cast Choke. Zenith, I'll put that in the bank. And try to turn their spells off. Okay, the Choke is in. Tameo is ticking, which makes me a little nervous. I need to get a big enough creature to tangle with that in before it's too late. Knight of the Reliquary plays here. It is a 4/4. Do I want to Zenith for Dryad Arbor and make Lair of the Hydra bigger next turn? I don't think so. This would be a great time to have a Questing Beast in the Zenith package. I know you can play like whatever you want and tune for your metagame. Tameo is part of the metagame. I think we want Questing Beast. This is the timeless list, though, that I was not supposed to change. But if you're not playing a timeless list and you are allowed to change it, maybe to Questing Beast. I was looking at this spread of cards. There is literally nothing that deals with a flip Tameo, which is something that can happen on turn 2 in this format with regularity, and then it's just tick-tock on the clock. Party don't stop. If they can get Revolt, they might spend a turn rebuying Fatal Push to deal with the Knight. If they can't get Revolt, they're just going to plus and put me in check here. Okay, well, I guess this is what I do here. Just activate Lair of the Hydra so I don't lose on the spot. I can put 2 damage on Tamiyo. She pops at 7. If they have Fatal Push, they got me. Both creatures attack Tamiyo. They can let Tamiyo take a bunch, and or they can lose their Delighted Halfling, and Tamiyo still doesn't go ultimate next turn. Okay, the Halfling has been blocked, used to block. And okay, the things just happened there. That was honestly not bad. Now the blocker's clear. Knight can run amok. Fetch land. That does turn on Fatal Push, so they could have answered Knight this turn and didn't. Is there anything in my package that is good here? And I could see Scavenging Ooze being useful, ramming up Excavator. If I play Stoneforge Mystic first, Guy's Cradle gets an extra mana. I think this is worth doing. Stoneforge Mystic. They're fetching in response to Stoneforge. Basic Island. Dress down. Okay, so that makes Knight smaller. Stoneforge comes in. I'm pretty sure Lair of the Hydra still works here. I hope it does. It's about to go straight to the graveyard if this doesn't work, because I have to do this. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, that ability is set on a different layer than... It doesn't work the way constructs do. It's just set that level. Okay, so Tamiyo goes down to 5. Dress down goes away. And they just used up that island. They're playing on this 1 dual land for now, which Zenith for ramming up solves, and we did it. Okay. I was pretty worried about the Tamiyo, but we were able to apply pressure to it. Good job, deck. The feeling of hopelessness as the Tamiyo ticked up was big enough that I'm thinking about the other Dismember and prioritizing killing Tamiyo and is still a creature. In sort of Fire and Ice can deal extra damage and get through blockers. Maybe it's fine, and I'm just stressing out because I'm not used to playing a deck with so many creatures with power and toughness. Okay. I'm playing this build. Again, right back in we go. Okay, I'm going to keep the classic Zenith hand that has the Dryad Arbor in it already, but this is got enough going on that I'm happy with it. It's also a really good hand to have Guy's Cradle in. I'm going to play Hierarch first, because I know they play Fatal Push, and I'd want the bird to stick. Strictly in terms of who can hold a Sword of Fire and Ice the best, because that has been central to all of my winning games so far, all my plans. And now that they've been choked out of a game, they have to think about and respect choke. Where, like, last game they force of willed something I did, and then got choked. Right, a Psychic Forg. If I play Birds of Paradise, I can still Zenith for 2. Okay, I'm going to play Bird, and then Zenith for Scrib Ranger. They might daze this, but it is the best play that I have. Alright, Ranger Danger, Pro Blue. It's Fatal Push or Bust for the opponent. Valley of Gorgoroth. Gorgoroth kills my Guy's Cradle. This must be Dress Down. I mean, I'm still going to block, but you're going to get me with Dress Down. Like, if I don't block, well, the attack is free, because I can't kill the frog anyway, even if I double block. So I'm not baiting them into anything. This could be a bluff attack. It could just be a Dress Down as a removal spell, which is going to get me at some point anyway. And I might as well just commit. It turned out to be that. Knight of the Reliquary. Okay. I mean, that's the big homie. I'm going to play Knight. I'm using Wasteland to pay for days, and then my plan is to Wasteland their Black Source. But they have forced pitching Brainstorm. Still going to waste their Black Source, though. Feels bad just treading water behind Psychic Frog. Need one of those removal spells in my deck. Here it comes. And they have a land. I also have a land. I'll cast Scavenging Ooze. And then I'll pass the turn. This is not big enough to tangle a Psychic Frog, but it does have some effect versus Loam and Uro. Fetching in the end step. That's not a Surveil land. Abrupt Decay. And I'm going to eat their Wasteland and their Polluted Delta. Just trying to make it harder to get Uro back, harder to Loam effectively, but they had 4 lands in the graveyard already. And I mentioned the feeling of playing against Uro with this deck. Psychic Frog feels exactly the same, except it happens 4 turns earlier. Opponent went AFK for a while and came back and said in the chat, sorry baby issue. Where do you think the comma is in that statement? Sorry, comma, baby issue, or sorry baby issue? I'm just going to think about that instead of this game that I can't win. Okay, I'm going to draw for Horizon Canopy because I just need to find Swords of Plowshares before the game ends, which doesn't seem likely. Once Upon a Time. Spell Pierce. Yeah, I mean, legal magic card. I will pass the turn and continue dying to Psychic Frog. If I can get and equip my sword, we're back in. If I can get the sword on the bird, that's my other route to Pro Blue. They already dealt with my Pro Blue creature with a blue spell on first arrival. Untap a legendary permanent. Yeah, we've seen the ring in their deck. This makes sense. There's the ring. I guess they milled past the ring game 1, and I did not think of bringing in Collector Roof to deal with this. All right, this game is not winnable anymore. Wow, that felt horrendous. Cards are just very different than they used to be. Let's look at this list real quick while I talk. Maverick was part of the legacy metagame in a huge way in like 2010, 2011. And what cards in this list have been printed since then? We've got Collector Roof, Endurance, Force of Vigor. Dismember was in that era. It was 2011. It wouldn't have been there 2010, but they would have had a 2011. Deafening Silence. Lush Portico, Lair of the Hydra. The rest of the lands were there. All these creatures were here. Remnant Excavator came a little later. Scavenging Ooze was the first commander set. Was that 2011 or 2013? Ooze might have been 2013, because I think I remember Maverick players being excited about this being printed. Liberator's new. Once Upon a Time is new. Thalia was here. Stoneforge. Tracker relatively new. Knight was here. Zenith was the whole reason the deck exists. Yeah, Dismember came out in the set after Green Sun Zenith. These were in the same block together. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of these 75 cards didn't exist in 2011. Compared to just playing Magic this last round versus Uro and Psychic Frog and cards printed in the era where every card needs to draw a card and be an absolute blast for people to play with. No drawbacks allowed. Has to be all upside, no feel bads. It's just a different design philosophy from when every card in this deck was printed. Or excuse me, 64 cards in this deck were printed to present day. Oh, I had my timeline wrong as well. Dismember was 2010. I'm thinking 2011 was like Innistrad block, and Avacyn Restored in 2012 is when everything really changed. That's when Maverick became pretty bad because it couldn't beat top Terminus, just like many other decks at the time. But Maverick's heyday was right before Terminus was printed. So yeah, Dismember would have been there basically the whole time. I'm not trying to disparage Maverick here. I'm just talking in terms of theoretical how to build decks and what cards are good by what metrics. And especially since the printing of Commander products and Modern Horizon sets, the Eternal formats have been getting giant shots in the arm every couple years that don't have to trickle down through Standard, through the normal processes. And this deck is playing 64 cards that were legal in 2011 compared to decks that have just fully embraced Uro and Psychic Frog as engines. And you can feel it in the games where you can't immediately plow the frog. That is what happened in the 2 games that I lost in that last match. Opponent just stuck some snowball creature printed in the last few years. And the game where they didn't do that, I was able to go back and forth with 1-for-1s and eventually take over in a way that was really fun and satisfying. Oh, it's a big ask these days. Maverick players are the real heroes. On to the final round. I'm on the play for the final round. I'm going to keep. I have an engine, a protection spell, a ramp spell, and a dig spell, and the mana to do stuff. Let's hope it works. And I do plan to cast a 1-drop. Nothing clever to do with this Once Upon a Time except jam it. Really only one choice here. I don't need another land. So Stoneforge Mystic, you're in. And I'm going to play Mother of Runes because Stoneforge Mystic costs 2, and I'd like to protect it when I cast it. Mother of Runes is just one of those cards that if you're not casting it out turn 1, when are you casting it? If it's in your opening hand next to a Birds of Paradise, unless the matchup is just desperately about something like resolving turn 2 choke. Okay, well, I drew one of my 2 tutor targets. I am already exposed to non-basic land hate. Prismatic Vista Plains Plow, though, might actually represent a Back to Basics main deck, so I will fetch my basic. I'm not worried about Wasteland here, I'm worried about Back to Basics or Blood Moon. Umezawa's Jitte in the hand. The players who've been playing this decade probably identify tutoring Jitte on a board like this as me digging for, or me already having Cauldron in hand. I wish that was the case. I simply don't have a better equipment to tutor for. The opponent is happy and confused why there's not a Cauldron in play. End step Brainstorm, so this is just setting up Terminus. Or is this because they led on basic planes and they gotta do what they gotta do? Plowing my Stoneforge. I will put in the Sword of Fire and Ice. They didn't miracle anything. They got a Ponder. And this is a showcase of why actual equipment that you need to put into play and then equip to creatures doesn't see a lot of play anymore. Even Jitte isn't in Death Indexes anymore most of the time. It's like right now I could add to the board, or I could equip and try to get in, which would be cool if it works, but also terrible if it doesn't work. All right, I'm going to go for Outland Liberator. And now I could add Jitte or End Step Once Upon a Time. And I think I'm going to End Step Once Upon a Time. So I already have one equipment in play that I'm too nervous to equip. I would like to find some more threats or like a fetch land to go with this tracker. Teferi Time Raveler. Well, better cast my spell, or else it won't happen. Mother of Runes, Scrib Ranger, Wasteland. Wasteland's interesting, because denying this deck mana actually does mess them up really badly. Mother of Runes, bad against sweepers, great against plows. They've used 2 plows already. I'm worried about sweepers. Wasteland also really good against sweepers because they cost a lot. I think I want Wasteland here. And I do have 2 creatures in play, so even if they bounce one of them, the other could pick up the sword. They could also just bounce the sword. Good play. But Teferi dies here either way, which was the important part of the story. I could also just replay. Yeah, I'm going to replay sword instead of wastelanding them. Okay, they had the force, but that would have been so sick if it worked. I should not have tapped Wasteland to do that. And playing Maverick's hard. And now, since I'm not doing anything else, I'm going to cast this Umezawa's Jitte. Temporary Lockdown. That's messed up. We're playing that in Legacy now? I didn't get the memo. Okay. I think I can waste this Tundra now. Tracker. Make a couple of clues. And I'm not messing around here. I'm just fetching immediately. Lush Portico. Get it set up. Gaddock Teague. I actually like that. Teague turns off Terminus and Force of Will, Supreme Verdict, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Wandering Emperor. Here's Teferi. I think I want to start by drawing a card. Swords to Plowshares. Not the best here. Let's hope this Teague actually matters. It can't beat Teferi in combat. Here's Brainstorm. There's 2 plows in the deck. They just tapped out of the colors to Prismatic Ending with. What are my outs to this temporary lockdown? I mean, one of them is lockdown, and it might not be temporary. There's no Boseiju in this list. Force of Vigor's in the sideboard. I appreciate the bravery of Maverick players who have just like exactly one answer to a thing in their Zenith package. They're like, yeah, that's covered. Speaking of Zenith package, I can't Zenith with Teague in play, but I have Tracker. Hopefully that can keep the pressure up. Prismatic Vista turns on Prismatic Ending, or they could just Ponder again, looking for one of their other 2 plows. I am in extreme danger to a Back to Basics. Okay, I'm gonna attack Teferi. That's gone. 1 problem solved. I guess I'm just gonna cast 2 creatures here and hope that Teague holds the fort versus sweepers. Off you go. They did shuffle the Ponder last turn. Brainstorm, just shredding and shredding. They have a shuffle for the Brainstorm. Red mana revealed. Narset. This is a lot of looks at Swords to Plowshares. Found Teferi, though. That one's less good. Okay. Land. Gonna attack Narset with this one, and they're faced with Gaddock Teague. Okay. That stuff is dead. I'm going to fetch Basic Forest here out of respect for Back to Basics as a card I'm worried about. Start drawing cards now that Narset's cleared. Scrib Ranger, sick. That can help versus Back to Basics. Teferi also can't bounce it. Okay, I'm going to pass. Teferi can bounce Teague and buy them time to cast one of their sweepers. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could. Flash in Scribby. Then Teferi resolves. They'd have to set up a Terminus in a very small window here. And the top of their deck is currently random. Bouncing my largest creature. But bouncing my large creature does not take Teague off the board, which must mean they're not worried about Teague or they're too worried about my large creature. Thalia, what's up? Okay, I think Thalia pre-combat asks them a big question. I also still have a land drop, so I can do Hierarch, Scribby stuff. They have Teferi in play, so if they have Snapcaster, that actually does get me here. I'm just going to attack... Oh wait, Snapcaster can't cast an instant. It can block, though. Alright, I'm attacking Teferi in their face. Thalia is making me less scared of Snapcaster. Okay, damage got through. Now I have to decide how I'm sequencing the rest of this turn. I could play Raminap and Wasteland them. I could play Tireless Tracker and make a land drop. I think that's better. The Teague is just locking out most of the things I'd want to Wasteland them over. I could even pick up Lush Portico here and get an extra Surveil. It cost me a mana, which cost me a life. All right, I'm going to pick up Savannah. Give myself the option to play some... I guess I can't even play extra spells because my own Thalia. I'm done casting spells. These creatures are going to kill my opponent. 4 mana in the pool. For what? For what? Oh no. Oh, that was a good answer. Well, I'll correct this clue. Draw a card. And then I'll untap Noble Hierarch bouncing Savannah and draw another card. The clues end up under the lockdown as well. Okay. Temporary lockdown. Pretty fucked up in this matchup, gonna be honest. Imagine next game, though, when I have Force of Vigor in my deck. Okay, Savannah. They appear to be F6. Is there a Zenith monster that helps me here? Doesn't look like it. Could Once Upon a Time. See what's in there. Found a Knight, an Endurance, and a Thalia. Knight seems like the guy. An attack for 5. See what they want to do about that. Have they been floating a massive Terminus for the last several turns? It's entirely possible. But I have to present lethal through Swords to Plowshares. I didn't get Terminus. Might get Supreme Verdicted. Great. Cool. Yep. That happened. They're at 5. Once again, Questing Beast would be great here. Okay, Thalia. Raminap. Wasteland. Take out this red. Okay, passing the turn. I've presented lethal again. There's mana in their pool. Prismatic Ending. Okay, so taking out the Volcanic Island actually may have stopped that from killing a different creature. JK, they have a basic mountain. Okay, double Prismatic Ending. Sick. There's not a haste creature in my deck. Questing Beast is lethal. Just gonna keep saying it. Zenith for 3. I'm gonna get Knight of a Reliquary. And I'm gonna play Windswept Heath because that can get Dryad Arbor, which can be a surprise 2 damage with the Exalted trigger. Like, they have to answer Knight, and then I have an uncounterable creature I can get. Where did all these come from? Suddenly, so many of that card. Okay, but I did play Elves in this era where Miracles was the best deck. So I know all about fetching Dryad Arbor in the end step for the last few points of damage. I'm gonna crack my clue token, though. Sick. Enough lands for the rest of my life. Put the opponent to 2, I hope. Okay, go. Please concede. 5 in the pool. What is this? Is this Lingus for 3? Just leave back the blockers, don't even attack. Sick. Well, my double Source of Plowshares that have just been gumming up my hand the whole game, actually coming up big here. I don't care if they get the Monarch. So I'm going to answer the 2 Knights that are left back. I'm going to do it before they draw this card. Plow. Plow. They do go to 6 here, but then I take the Monarch. Wasteland. Draw a card immediately with Horizon Canopy. Endurance. That card plays. It's really big. And it's an instant. There are basic planes in my deck somewhere, so I'll play this Windswept Heath and pass. Maybe I'm supposed to play Endurance now before they have Force of Will up on the hard cast. Yeah, I'm just going to do that, actually. And I'm going to target myself, put all these dope cards back in my deck. Let's go. Let's go. I'm also not going to deck myself now. Oh, they have a second Lingus. Okay, I'm at 1. Okay, they're not putting me to 1. They are putting me to 2. And I don't have to block with Noble Hierarch. Okay, yep. I guess this is the block. Keep my Hierarch. You get the Monarch back. Several times, in fact. Do I want to fetch to 1? Is that a meaningful difference in life? I don't think I want to fetch to 1. Wish I had fetched. What's in the deck now? The creature I want is the Outland Liberator, and it's under the lockdown. The other creature I want is Questing Beast, and it's not in my deck. What's left to do? Scrib Ranger gives me offense and defense. Probably not enough, though. Tireless Tracker could draw some more cards. Scavenging Ooze doesn't gain life because they have no creatures in their deck, and I got rid of all mine. Well, I can attack, they have to block. Is there anything I can Zenith for that would grant trample or remove this blocker? I think that's a big no. I could Zenith, draw some cards, try to hit Swords to Plowshares. Zenith for 3. They could very well have Swords to Plowshare or Force of Will by now. Force of Negation, even worse. They don't lose life for it. If I attack, they block and they win on the backswing. If I don't attack, they win on the backswing. Tough beats. And that's another perfect example of the conversation we were having after the last round, where we were actually having a pretty good back and forth game versus Jeskai Control, a deck that certainly existed alongside Maverick in its era. And we were even beating War of the Spark Planeswalkers, which was pretty exciting to just wade through a bunch of those. And then my opponent played 2 copies of 4th Aerolingus, a card from the recent era that just completely outclassed everything that was happening. All right, Force of Vigor, also temporary lockdown. That's some insane technology. Jitte does make every creature into a threat and makes them deal with every creature one at a time, which is a sneaky way to get value versus control decks when you're a mopey creature deck. Like, they can't just ignore a Noble Hierarch. They could ignore Birds of Paradise because it doesn't have power. But even if there's like a Jitte with 1 counter in play, Birds of Paradise becomes a solo threat that they need to answer. I don't think I need Plows here. I like Endurance just because it has Flash. And too many mana dorks versus a deck that we've confirmed Supreme Verdict out of is a concern. I'm going to do it like this. Let's go. Okay, no lander with Once Upon a Time and Zenith. I don't think I can keep this. Mulligan. Come on. Come on. There's so much mana in this deck. All right, I'm on 5 in a matchup that's certainly terrible. All right, I'm going to keep this bottom Windswept Teeth and Basic Forest. All right, I'm going to Zenith for Dryad Arbor and pass the turn. I was excited to play this match. There's just a lot of fun little decisions to make and a lot of slow value back and forth on the board. It just became worse. Drawing Choke helps, though. Okay, Basic Plains. I'm going to try to send this sword right now. It got in. That's fun. Now, if they were thinking of doing something like tapping out for counterbalance, or I don't know why they would do that, but if they were thinking about it, stop thinking about it. I'm just going to cast Choke. My sword resolved without a fight. I don't want to let them run Swords of Plowshares into a great exchange here. Here's a fetch. Volcanic Island, Tundra, probably Prismatic Ending. Necessary to remove the Choke. And then I get at least 1 connection with Sword, which does not win the game on its own, as we've learned throughout the league. But it's at least nice. Lush Portico. Zenith. Okay, fine. I could Zenith for Teague here, or if I Zenith for Scrib Ranger, oh my god, all of my forests enter the battlefield tapped or have Summoning Sickness, so Zenithing for Scrib Ranger doesn't even get me a sword hit. I think I want to hit with Sword while the getting's good. Give me at least 1 connection with this. Give me Pro Blue on my Dryad Arbor, so Teferi can't bounce it, and then we'll figure out the rest of the game after that. Attack for 5, draw a card. Once Upon a Time versus Zenith for a dork. I don't want a Zenith for a dork. I'll just Once Upon a Time as an instant if I need to. Ponder. And Dryad Arbor can't be prismatic ended. So protection from Teferi, protection from prismatic ending. They need Swords to Plowshares or a Sweeper for this thing, both of which they play. But it's nice that this particularly works the way that it works. Teferi can bounce the sword, as we've seen in previous rounds. Oh, this is quite a spread. I thought about getting Ranger last turn. Thalia is solid. Wasteland is solid. Teferi's gonna die here. I think Knight is just the guy. The girl. The person. As wastelanding them, Knight represents an endless stream of wastelands. And I can't play an equip sword this turn, so I'll just attack with Dryad Arbor first. Attack Teferi. And this is where sweepers become busted, because I would love to play out this Noble Hierarch. But if Supreme Verdict is what they have, it's going to be terrible. But if Swords of Plowshare is what they have, it would have been great. Ponder. They shuffled the Ponder. Hope. Another Teferi. Okay. Continue Treading Water. But Treading Water is all they really have to do. And now I wish I had the Noble Hierarch in play, but you can't know which one it's going to be till it happens. Attack Teferi. Okay. Knight of the Reliquary is back. Now I have the information that they don't have a sweeper, or at least they didn't last turn, so I can dump out the extra Hierarch now. But now if they find a sweeper, it's going to be extra devastating. 5 in the pool. Lorien revealed. Okay. That doesn't affect the board. I get at least a nice attack in, but them having a handful of cards is not great for my future prospects. After I just deduced that they probably don't have a sweeper. Now good chance that they do. But Zenith can get Teague now. And we can start turning it around. Uh-oh. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I can Zenith for 2 twice. And the reason to do that is you can't Zenith anymore once Teague's in play. Zenith for 2. And if they fire Force of Will on this because they're afraid of Teague, then I can play the other one. They are responding to this. Basic Island. Brainstorm. Big Digs. And then they're using Force on this. Respect the Teague. And then I'll get Teague with the other one. Okay. So looking at my lands real quick while we're in here, I could spend a turn making Knight huge. Or I could just bash for 4. I think making Knight huge is better. That also gives me some insulation versus a sweeper. Like I could flip away the Dryad Arbor into a stable land. Temp lockdown. Each non-land permanent. Okay, that doesn't affect Dryad Arbor. It does clear my Teague, though, which unlocks my Force of Vigor, which can surprise them with what I have access to. Ponder shuffled and came up with Arid Mesa. I'm going to activate Knight. I'm going to get rid of Lush Portico, because it's either better in my graveyard for Ramanep or better in play because of Scrib Ranger. And I think I'm just going to put it in the graveyard. I can get Windswept Teeth, try to make Knight individually larger, or I could get Gaia's Cradle and try to equip a sword this turn. I'm going to do that. Mother! Sword of Fire and Ice on the stack. I'm going to target Dryad Arbor because that is the less scary thing. Okay. I am attacking with my 7 power. That's actually 9. Ping you, draw a card. So I can unlock the squad. I'm going to stop in their draw step, just in case they flip Terminus, and if they don't, yeah, I'm just gonna force this now so they don't Supreme Verdict. Cool. All right. If they flip Terminus, you do have a moment where the miracle triggers on the stack that you could set Teague free, and then they can't miracle it. Okay. Navigated that one. And going back in at the end here. Now they've seen Force of Vigor, so they may or may not rely on Temp Lockdown for much longer. But it's also just clearly a very good card against my deck. I will keep this in. I found a choke. I like that one. And Once Upon a Time. Knight Forest. I think I want Forest. Yeah, I guess my hand has a lot of mana, but it's bad mana. It's Knight or Forest for me. Sending the other choke to the bottom. Now we know that's gone. It's kind of disappointing. Okay, here's Noble Hierarch. Leading out Volcanic Island is interesting. Yeah, Encycling Lorien revealed immediately. Makes sense, because Volcanic Island's got to be the worst land in their deck. Ponder. If I can catch them slipping with choke and they can't immediately prismatic end it like they did last game, that's a quick path to the exit. Okay. They're not going to be caught slipping. And the way they've fetched makes me think that maybe they don't have back to basics after all. Or if they did, maybe they boarded it out. Sword of Fire and Ice in the grip. I probably have to play Noble Hierarch if I don't draw the land there, just to make sure I can send the choke. Teferi Time Raveler. That bounces Stoneforge Mystic. Well, the door's open. Choke. Oh, they passed the test. They had the force. The sequencing is interesting too, because choke is a must counter in terms of the game really falls apart for them. And if I just want to YOLO a spell into play, choke's the one I want. But is something like Knight of the Reliquary strong enough that they would maybe use a force on that, which would then open the doorway for choke to actually end the game by itself? I don't know. All right, I can massively overextend into a sweeper here, or I could play it slow a little bit. I think I'm just going to play Stoneforge. This is enough that a Swords to Plowshares doesn't stabilize, and I don't care that much about either of these creatures if they have Supreme Verdict. Teferi plussing in a Supreme Verdict deck is a whole other world of hurt, though. And I gotta imagine there's a Days Undoing in here somewhere. All right, there's a Force of Will. Now we know. Temporary lockdown. Great. When suspicious technology is rewarded at every possible outcome. A Mother, Noble Hierarch, Knight of the Reliquary. Can't play around a sweeper, so I'm not even going to try. Just gotta mash these Planeswalkers before they win the game. And my opponent has Force Blue card in their hand and didn't interact with any of this. That makes me pretty nervous. I guess they know about the Sword of Fire and Ice too, and if they're more worried about that than any of the onboard creatures, if their hand is just like 2 plows plus the Force Blue card we know about, ending my Mother, rude, plowing my Knight, also rude, plussing Teferi. They're trying to keep them around. Well, there's Ponder. That's the blue card we knew about. Presumably, there's a lot of blue cards in the deck, and they might still have access to one, but that's the one I cared the most about. It did not shuffle, so I gotta imagine this force is on. A Mother of Runes. And here I'm going to do the thing I was talking about where Jitte makes it so you can't just ignore these random shitters. And they sandbag that Force of Will because they're probably more worried about the Sword of Fire and Ice, but I can just play the second best card in my hand that's also fine here. Put some damage on Teferi so it doesn't get a free lunch. Some counters on Jitte now. Anything that picks it up is big enough to kill any Planeswalker. They quickly shuffled their Ponder. Replacement Narset. Here we go. Did we navigate a board state where we're actually applying pressure and have some lock pieces? They just found a plow, but I've successfully untapped with the Mother. And now I can even move Jitte. Oh wait, I can kill both their Planeswalkers. Okay. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. I can't kill both of them. I can kill Teferi and make Narset much smaller. I attack Teferi with my 3-power 1. Yeah, I don't play instants anyway. Why do I care about Teferi? I think I want Narset dead. And then I'll attack Teferi with this one. +2/+2. Okay, I hope I bet right on that. That was basically betting against Supreme Verdict. It was like Days Undoing versus Supreme Verdict dual decks. And I'm going to pass the turn. There is some argument to just play the Sword of Fire and Ice, make them spend 2 cards on Force of Will while it's actually a 2-for-1 before they have 5 mana up. And then there's the argument, just don't do that because we know what they got and we know it's good. I'm going to do the Jitte trick again. I'm going to attack their face and Teferi. It didn't plus because I didn't want to give them a window to use extra. I didn't want to give them an extra priority window when I was trying to kill a Teferi. Okay, they are trying to cast Swords to Plowshares on my Mother of Runes. I will counter that. And then we'll see what the follow-up is. Rainstorm. My clock has gone under 5 minutes. I've been deep in the tank trying to not mess this up. Well, that's everything. Oh no, why did I fetch? Oh, Dryad Arbor's already in play, it's fine. All right, I'm going to fetch Lush Portico. We're good. Get rid of Windswept Teeth. Float a zillion mana, draw with Horizon Canopy. All right, Zenith, pretty good follow-up here. I was looking for Scrib Ranger on that sequence. Okay, multiple Zeniths now. They're going to have to force this because they know it can get Teague. And then the force in their hand is off that they've been sitting on for their whole life. Force pitching Spell Pierce. All right, great. Now let's see if I can successfully maneuver my board back. They have Lingus! That's so good. I can kill one of the horses with Jitte, but they get to make 3 of them. And I don't have Questing Beasts, so there's no reason to hold any back. Okay, I am going to kill one of the horses just for clock consideration. Okay, Zenith for 2 again. I'm not getting Teague. I'm getting Outland Liberator. I'm not getting anything. Their last 2 cards in hand are Force Blue card. One of them was just drawn randomly. I guess I can't concede yet, but I want to. I'm a 13. They draw a card. Stoneforge Mystic. Basically a blank. Tireless Tracker. Equip this. Allow and response. Cool. Yeah, we're fully in garbage time at this point. I think if they didn't have the force for that second Zenith, this game might have been competitive. They got 2 cards in hand again. Force of Vigor. Well, that is a good one. 1, 2, 3. That's not good. I'm just gonna pass. Or, no, I should Force of Vigor now. Because then Cradle can equip the Jitte right away. Stoneforge doesn't have anything left to tutor for. Equip. I'm equipping my worst creature. So if they have 1 removal spell, they have to put it there. Okay, they've passed the turn. Drawn a card. We're back to me. Savannah. 1, 2, 3. Sword. What do we think? What do we say? Their blockers are red. Well, if they have literally anything, I'm fucked. But this attack does get me the Monarch and stabilize the board. If it works. Okay, they're double blocking there. Okay. I'm going to +2/+2 the Stoneforge. Deal 2 damage to this human knight. I get the Monarch. I draw a card. And I'm going to play Stoneforge Mystic because just having a creature on board versus the possibility of individual removal makes sense to me here. Oh my god. Opponent said 6 land in a row, GG. Well, I mean, I ran pretty bad for the whole match, but okay. Stick with it. I wanted to concede that match so bad, but we ended up having a great recovery instead. 2-1 record. One of the wins was a technicality opponent who had to leave, but one was really good. And then we had a bunch of matches where we just felt completely outmatched by cards printed in the last 6 years instead of cards printed 14 years ago. I want to once again be clear that I'm not anti-Maverick and I'm not making fun of anyone who plays it. And I appreciate First Revenge sending it to the channel. I'm glad I got to play it. All those things are true. But I am going to say that this deck is hard work. Like, it's not even like the wins are easy. There are decks that reward good sequencing and pay off a toolbox full of green little creatures like Cradle Control, like old style combo elves, like kind of pre-natural order combo elves, like Death and Taxes. There's a bunch of decks that do pieces of what this deck does, but all of those decks have kind of a cheese win button. Like Cradle Control has natural order. Elves back in the day had the combo once you found the mirror entity to really just go off. Death and Taxes can like grab Cauldron, wasteland them twice, and that's it. Or if the opponent kept a sketchy hand, it can really punish with all the tutors and recursion and stuff that's built into Death and Taxes these days. If the game goes crazy long, Death and Taxes has Yorion endgame that they can lean into, where Maverick feels like it has to perfectly execute the median Death and Taxes game plan and always win in the mid-range. There's no aggro cheese and there's no combo finish. And my question for Maverick players is, why are you working so hard? Why? I definitely understand the appeal of trying to play Magic fairly with these intricate game pieces, but you have to be really good at this deck and really understand every deck in the format. Like, I do think I understand most decks in the format better than the average Legacy player, And I'm still, you saw me this entire league, just like, I could see these 13 cards in my sideboard being somewhat useful, but I have 4 slots to do the best plan that I can. And you have to be a complete master of Maverick and a complete master of Legacy for this all to work out. I will point out, though, we didn't play against Delver, like actual 1-drop Wasteland Days Delver of Secrets style Magic. We played against that one Bug Frog deck, but it looked a little bigger with the Loams and Uros and stuff. Maverick is really good against decks like that. I actually did register Maverick at one of the online Eternal Weekends 4 years ago because I thought it was so well positioned versus exactly Delver, which was a great deck at the time. Maybe that's what we're talking about when we say, where do you find a free win? It's more matchup dependent. Like if you go Mother of Runes, Thalia, Wasteland versus Delver, sometimes you do actually just win. But I don't know where your free money's coming from in Legacy today. And maybe it's the fact that I was given just kind of the generic blueprint list, and maybe we do play Kaldra instead of Umezawa's Jitte and make that Stoneforge Mystic a bigger threat. Maybe we main deck 3 Endurances because we know Reanimator's popular. Maybe we put that Questing Beast that I wanted in basically every match in the deck in some kind of slot if the metagame is about like Temio and two blockers from 4th Aerlingus. Those are all, of course, things you can do. I will also say, after several years of Green-White Depths being a viable tournament deck, that I was kind of unimpressed with the Knight of the Reliquary package. Basically, Knight can bounce a legend, wasteland an opponent, or just put more lands in the graveyard. And that's very different than the dedicated Green-White Depths decks that have like a combo kill, or Bajuka Bog, or this or that, or Flagstones of Trocare that you can ramp yourself with if nothing else is really going on. Very, very different experience playing this Knight of Reliquary from that Knight of the Reliquary, and that's the one that I have a lot more reps with in the last recent years. All that said, my brain is mush. I worked really hard. I played a lot of Magic for a 2-3 record, and oh baby, Maverick players, I have a lot of respect for you. You want this way more than I do. I'm just going to put easy cards printed in the last 5 years in my deck and draw cards like crazy and run over other people. That's how I'm going to play Legacy. But good luck to you all out there. First Revenge, thank you for sharing this. Clips for Life, thanks for the list. Everyone, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, check out the Patreon, and I'll see you next time.